Back here on Mediacom Channel 22, it's the Columbia Cougars Coaches Show, talking softball with head coach Wendy Spratt. Anytime we know that you guys are playing and practicing, we know that the nicer, warmer weather is not that far away. There's still some interesting days here in the first part of March and into April when you guys are playing most of your home dates, a few more home dates this year than there have been, but you just never know weather-wise what you're going to get here in central Missouri. You guys are off to a 3-1 start.
That's correct.
And you played, where were those games? Were in Alabama?
Conway, Arkansas.
Arkansas. Okay, in Arkansas on a 3-1 record. We'll get into the breakdown of some of those games in a little bit, but on your sideline, a couple of other assistant coaches helping you out. Tyler's been there for the last 3 or 4 years now as an assistant, and he is primarily your pitching coach. Is that his primary role? Tell us a little bit about Tyler Stark and his role.
Tyler came from Lincoln, and he's been with us. This is his 3rd year, and he works mostly with pitchers, although he works with hitters as well. But he does a great job developing pitchers on our staff and works with several youth pitchers in the community.
In the area, and then he's over at first base. Will he still coach first this year, or will that be going to somebody else?
No, he'll be the one at first.
Hanging out at first base, and Wendy, the head coach, and then over at third base as well. If you haven't been out to see a softball game at outside of Southwell Complex at the softball field over there. Joe Henderson is new to your staff also. He used to coach in Columbia at Rockbridge High School. I know a lot of people know him from Rockbridge, and then he was also an assistant at Lincoln University in Jefferson City, and now back here helping you out on the sideline. Tell us about how it came to be that Joe joined your staff. Well,
Joe's been interested in our staff for several years, and we met several times to discuss philosophies and make sure that they would mesh, and finally we decided it was the right time, and he's done an excellent job of meshing with our staff. Our staff is very cohesive. He works a lot individually with hitters. Has really improved our hitting offensive game, I believe.
So that's going to be one of his primary roles really, is trying to help out with the sticks. And then the other assistant that's helping you out is a former player of yours. She played here for a couple of years, transferred in from California and played out in left field, if I recall correctly, Linda Diller.
Correct.
I can't remember the exact game, but I do remember doing the play-by-play call for ColumbiaCougars.com, her throwing a runner out from inside the library. Brad had a great arm in left field and a great bat for your softball team a couple of seasons ago, and now she's joining you in the dugout as well. Tell us a little bit about what Linda will offer as a coach as opposed to one of your players.
Linda does an amazing job of pumping athletes up. She's very, very vocal. She's very energetic. She's very enthusiastic. She's brought a lot of different drills to the outfield, and her primary role is to work with the outfielders.
And the outfield, obviously, a valuable position for you, and it seems like over the years at different times you've had great players at all positions, but here recently it seems like besides Linda, there's been several other outstanding outfielders, and continuing now with a lot of young newcomers coming in and working on different positions and trying to find, as you mentioned earlier, that chemistry word that's so popular at the beginning of seasons for coaches, trying to figure out what pieces are going to work whether a girl's in left field or maybe she's in center field. To have a former player, obviously, it's something that's different for especially the younger girls that can look up to somebody that was a player just a couple of seasons ago, as opposed to a coach or somebody that's a little more of a different kind of an authoritative figure that way.
Right. I think they really feed off of her. She gets a lot of feedback from them, ask them about drills and how they feel about it and what can make the drill better. So they get a lot of input into the decision making, and they really enjoy that. It makes them think a little bit more.
And it's got to be not a completely different philosophy for you, but a lot of delegation on your part to these other coaches and kind of get that chemistry working together, which I'm sure in some level you're kind of still wanting to do more of that. But tell us about the philosophy going into this season overall in general.
In general, I'm not a good delegator. I like to be in control of everything, but
sometimes that's part of being a coach.
It's one of my personal goals to delegate more, and I've given a lot of authority to Joe and to Linda and to Tyler, and I kind of let them run with it. And then we discuss, before practice what's going to happen after practice, but they've done a lot.
Yeah, and here we go, getting ready for, played 4 games already. And getting ready to another weekend of games here, traveling up. Where are you guys headed this coming weekend?
We're going to Jackson, Tennessee, where we'll see number 23 and number 24 in the nation.
You definitely schedule tough, that's for sure.
We do.
And you have to, and again, and the same thing that Coach Washington does with volleyball and all the Columbia College programs is to get a barometer of where you're going to be, because yes, ultimately your conference tournament is that automatic bid, but also having a national ranking can help when it comes time for the seedings in the national tournament at the end of the year.
Right, and we don't want to just make it to the national tournament. Right. We also want to compete. We want to do well. So the more of those teams that we can see it's always easier to beat a team the second time around once you know everything that they have, all their tools. And, you know, once Val sees a team the first time and she sees their hitters, she's very difficult to beat the second time.
Locked in. And she's talking about Valerie Teeter, the ace of the staff, and also plays third base when she's not pitching. We'll get into Valerie and the rest of the Cougar players a little bit coming up next. You're watching the Cougar Coaches Show on Mediacom Channel 22.